Welcome to Module 9. In this module, we're going to focus on the study of consciousness. In many ways, this brings us back to the early roots of psychology. In the late 1800s, when psychology was first getting started as a scientific discipline, consciousness was considered to be the only proper topic of study for psychologists. Of course, since that time, we moved away from that and have studied behavior and mental illness and all kinds of other topics. But consciousness is still very much a topic of interest to psychology. So that's what we're going to focus on in this module. It's hard to define exactly what consciousness is. In my class, I often start by asking the class to define it. And there's a little bit of frustration because everybody kind of knows what it is and everybody uses the term all the time, but to actually put it into words in a way that everybody's content with is difficult. So we're going to just accept the fact that we can't define it exactly, but we're going to think of it as our awareness of what's going on at the moment. Our thoughts, our feelings, sensations that we're experiencing, whatever is in our present that we are aware of, that is what we're referring to as consciousness. Now, surprisingly enough, it turns out that consciousness is not nearly as important for a lot of psychological functions and even behaviors as we might think. We usually think of consciousness as being the thing that instigates these things. But in fact, a lot of what we do seems to be on automatic pilot, and consciousness tries to catch up and explain it after the fact. In other words, what we're feeling and why we did what we did often isn't caused by the consciousness as much as tried to be explained by it. When I teach this class live and in person, there are some topics I spend a fair bit of time on. One of them is hypnosis. And we do some demonstrations in class that are kind of fun. We're not going to be able to do that here, so I want you to read about hypnosis in the textbook and understand it. I don't have much to add to it right now. I also spend a fair bit of time talking about the effects of being isolated in extreme environments, like polar environments or high altitude mountain climbing, or solitary sailors going around the world. These people often have profoundly altered states of consciousness experience, which are quite interesting, but we don't have time to cover everything, so I'm not going to talk about that in this section of the class. I'm going to focus on the altered state of consciousness that all of us experience pretty much every day, and that's the topic of sleep and dreaming. And this is something everybody's interested in. We all sleep, we all have dreams. So I'll talk a little bit about what we think dreams mean or what they don't mean. I'm going to spend a fair bit of time talking about sleep disorders. And there are a number of very interesting videos depicting different sleep disorders on the webpage for the module of this course. I strongly encourage you to look at those. I think you'll enjoy them. So let's get rolling and talk about consciousness.